If you are a parent with a kid who struggles with motor tics, this video is for you. I want to explain what's really going on. I want to walk through what some of the options you have are, because I'm willing to bet that the traditional route that you've been given or the advice that you've been told of they'll just grow out of eventually probably doesn't sit well with you. And we want to address what's really at play and how can we better support our kids through these sort of stresses. Let's start with that. Let's start with addressing what is actually happening, because these can be kind of confusing. They can seemingly come out of nowhere. It can seem like it's not really triggered by anything in particular, but what we need to understand is basically what a motor tic. It's a pent up neurospinal system tension. Neuromuscular stress and spasm gets locked in, and then we have this repetitive motion that is the body's work to try to unlock it, to try to release it, to try to work through that. Sometimes that's something that seems like a kid can control and like they're influencing. Sometimes it seems like they are completely unaware of what's happening. But regardless, that is what's at the bottom, at the base of it. What is taking place is their neurospinal system is locked in a state of stress and in a state of tension. And this can't be something that's transient, right? It can come and it can go, and it seems like it's more or less something that they will grow out of. But what is really going on is unless the cause, unless the underlying mechanism or the underlying why, the root issue is addressed, it'll probably come back, or maybe they grow out of the motor tic part of it, but it shows up as a different issue, as a different challenge, because we see that kids struggling with these sort of motor tics often at the same time are maybe dealing with anxiety or ADHD or some sort of sensory processing challenge in the moment, in the same sort of season of life. Or maybe it's down the road. Maybe after they get through that, after it comes and goes, that shows up later on because it's the same underlying issue at play. So what can trigger this? What can be some of the big instigators or initiators of this stress in the neurospinal system, which we're going to call subluxation? That is our word to describe this locked-in neurospinal system. That subluxation can set up shop from a variety of different triggers. It might be a big toxic exposure they had, right? Maybe they're surrounded by an environment that has some sort of extra heavily laden toxic chemicals in it. So maybe it's a big exposure that sets it off. Maybe it's a big growth spurt, right? Maybe it's a good thing, right? Kids growing is a positive thing, but that can add an extra demand and a stress on their system. It could be a seasonal change and how that adds extra challenges to life. It could be an extra mental or emotional stress, something they went through at school, a big test, a big project, a big family dynamic or family loss that took place. There is some sort of instigating trigger that is often at the root of it that takes that high baseline they had, right? It takes that activated stress response that maybe was hiding beneath the surface, and it pushes it over the edge, and now it shows up as this tic or as this motor release. So what we need to do is address that underlying trigger or that underlying sensitivity that has them at a heightened state so that when the extra stress hits, it doesn't push them over the edge and it doesn't push them to their breaking limit. Our way to do that at Thrive and as pediatric neurologically focused chiropractors is technology. It scans. It's actually measuring the nervous system, assessing what is going on, how is it functioning. The one that comes to mind when we're talking about motor tics or motor tension is our EMG scan, this neuromuscular activity analysis. This is going to be what specifically evaluates how well is the kid's postural system? How is their neuromuscular system just handling everyday life? We're going to do this test with a kid doing nothing other than sitting in a chair, fighting against gravity. So that gives us a baseline. That gives us a way to measure what is the brain and body connection, how well is that regulation taking place with no other extra demands upon it. But then of course when we're playing sports, when we're doing anything else on top of that, that's going to push it to the limits even more. It might set off some of these responses or triggers. So we use that to measure it. We use that to quantify it and objectively track it. So then we have a game plan so that when we're going through care, when we're using our specific neurologically focused adjustments to calm that stress, we can keep monitoring, keep tracking that, and make sure that that underlying mechanism or underlying cause is being unraveled so we can get them to a better spot, both as a baseline, right? So they're not maybe dealing with some of the extra stuff like the sensory or the ADHD or the anxiety challenges, but so we can get this motor response and motor tic at bay as well. I know that's probably just a little bit of teaser. There's so much more that we could go into on this. If you want to dig into this a little bit deeper, check out the article that we've got linked here that's in our bio. Reach out to our team, send us a message. We'd be happy to chat more and walk through what really is at play here and what can we do to help your family thrive.